Okay, welcome back to part 2 of our session. We are going to be continuing on with the 1945 general election knowledge that we learnt from part 1 and through your skills booklet as well, and we're going to be trying to apply those foundational skills that I talked you through in the last video with some of the tasks from your booklet that you've got now. Okay. So if we get into the main body of these tasks, there are 5 larger tasks in total, okay? And the purpose of these tasks is for you to get a sense of what is expected and for you to have a little bit of a practice with some support and guidance there. The question we're going to focus on is this here. So assess the reasons why Labour won the 1945 general election. So this is the type of essay question that we could easily get in our Britain exam, okay? What I would like you to do is to read through the sample introduction and first paragraph of this essay. Write down in the space provided what you think are the good things from this first paragraph. Just note down anything that you think is really good about it. Think about what I've discussed so far and what is in your skills booklet that outlines what we need to put into a good essay. And just write down, annotate, highlight, whatever you want to do on that page to show what is good about that paragraph. I'm going to assume that you are going to pause the video and just replay once you are done. So, hopefully you've had a read and you have noted down what you think is good about this paragraph. In no uncertain terms is this a perfect paragraph, you know, but it is a really good example that breaks down, I think, the structure that we're going for and how to include all of the elements that I have talked about so far. Okay, what I have done just to really highlight where these elements are, I've put a little key of what we need, so evaluation, mention of factors, detail, analytical links and a mini judgment, and I've sort of colour coded it to the paragraph that you have in your booklet. So I'm hoping that you are able to see where all of these elements fit in. So if we have a little read through, this first sentence of the introduction says that there is a most important reason why Labour won the 1945 general election. So there's your evaluation, and the factor that it is seen as the most important is the strengths of their election campaign. So we know from that first sentence what's going to be argued throughout this answer is, well, Labour's strengths in their election campaign is the most important reason why they won, okay? And we need to make sure that it sticks to that, all right? It also outlines the other factors that are going to be talked about. So the weaknesses of the Conservative campaign is going to be discussed in the answer, and new social policies are going to be talked about as well. And what the introduction does is it in a way ranks those factors. So in this last sentence it says, although these factors are important in understanding the reason for Attlee's win, they are less important than that of the strength of his party's campaign. So there's more evaluation there, okay? If we delve into the main body of this paragraph, so in the first sentence, it's got the clear factor that's going to be talked about, so Labour's general election campaign, and we've got the evaluation there, it's the most crucial reason, okay? So we've got a bit of variation in evaluative words there as well, which is good to sort of show that you've got a developed vocabulary, all right? Then we're going into that main structure of detail analysis, detail analysis, detail analysis. Okay, so that's highlighted with the green and the orange here. So we've got the discussion about how Attlee was Prime Minister, Attlee was Deputy Prime Minister, not Prime Minister, during the war, and his role was focused on the home front and how that was really crucial for him winning this election. And that's in the orange, that's the analytical link. That's why it's important to mention. Because he's won over the British people and he's personable, a man of the people, he has this positive reaction which helps him win. Okay? Moving on to the next point, you've got the leftward shift. Okay, that's the detail, that's the own knowledge and the understanding about what's happening with the electorate during the war. And it's backed up with the statistic from the opinion polls. Yeah. Again, we've got the link back to the question to show that it's relevant. This highlights the growing popularity of Labour showing their strengths in the campaign, using those vocabulary, and saying that it's had the most significant impact. We've got further evaluation in the middle of the paragraph. Okay. Then the last point we've got about the propaganda that was used and slogans that were on the posters of the Labour Party's campaign. So, and now win the peace. Labour is for him, for her, prosperity, home, security. Okay. This is sort of highlighting the message, the campaign message that Labour had, and how it turned out well for them because they had 393 seats in the House of Commons. Linking this back to the question, it's the largest majority in any election, showing the extent of their success and significance. Okay, so that's that final link. Then for the mini judgment, we've got again the evaluation saying why this is the most significant reason, and linking to the question that it's Labour that won the general election because of that factor, the strength of their election campaign. So I'm hoping you are seeing how this all comes together in a paragraph, and it's nice and clear with the highlight in there. Okay. And I hope that you were able to pull that out and to put into your booklet of what was really good about it. Okay. If we move on to task 2 then, I want you to read through this second paragraph. Alright. Now where prompted, write in how you could improve upon this paragraph. So the paragraph is all about social reform. I would like you to write in the detail and the link where it tells you to of how to improve that paragraph for me. Okay, so give this video a pause, go to that task, have a go, and we'll regroup and do a little bit of assessment on that. So hopefully you've had a look at that second paragraph, which is now on the screen. So I'm hoping you are noticing the difference that this is a very limited and underdeveloped paragraph in comparison to the first. Alright, this is something that I was talking about before with the common errors, not writing or explaining enough and developing your answer. There are some relevant points and some things that are good, there is knowledge there, but it's so basic. There's things we could do with this to make it 100 times better. So what I'm just going to quickly talk through is what is needed, alright, just to reaffirm this idea and the expectation of what we have at A level. So firstly, there's a lack of evaluation here. The judgment is very limited. We don't really know what is being argued. We know that they're talking about social policies, but how does this fit into their argument? Yeah, where is the importance, the significance? How valid is this view? Okay. yes, the factor is mentioned, but it's not explained in relation to the question. Okay, so it doesn't really tell us the importance of this idea of social change that was born out of World War II in the Beveridge report. Okay, there needs to be some further explanation of that. Again, the detail is relevant, but it's just not specific enough. What are the 5 giants of poverty? What report was published? Who published it? When was it published? Yeah. What other social reforms have come out of this? Yes, it talks about the National Health Service, but how is that going to be funded? And the big thing that I think is missing from this paragraph is that there's just no link into the question. How do we know what is being talked about here is relevant to the argument or the question? Okay, it sort of vaguely touches on it in the second to last sentence, saying people like the report, so they voted Labour in 1945, but where is the part about Attlee supporting the Beveridge report? Why did Labour support the Beveridge report? Well, it was because they were a left-leaning party and this was a left-leaning report. You know, there isn't any sort of matching up of this. Why didn't the Conservatives support the Beveridge report? Yeah, there's a lack of development and link there. And the mini judgment does not give any indication of where this factor sits into the question. It's very, very vague. It just says it meant Labour won the election. Well, how? Why? Yeah. So I'm hoping your improvements have pulled this apart a little bit more in line with what is on the screen there. Okay. With that, I want you to self-assess your improvements, okay? So have a look at the example paragraph for task 3A to help you self-assess your improvements, all right? If there's anything that you maybe missed out from adding into that first paragraph, go back to the task and add in anything that you missed in a different colour, so you know that that's where maybe you need to go back and think a little bit more. Okay, I'll give you some time to do that. Press pause and we'll come back and focus on this together. So, task 3B, what I would like you to do then is to think about the essay paragraph structure we've been learning so far. Can you remember what it is? So you've got some space in your booklet to build your own structure, scaffold. Try and do this from memory. What do we need to do to build the perfect paragraph? So hopefully, now that you've done that, this should be what you have in a rough form. So we need to outline the factor that we will talk about and evaluate it. We need to give some detail, we need to have that analytical link, and we need to do that 3 times in our paragraph, and then we need that mini judgment at the end confirming what our argument is and using some evaluation as well. So hopefully you've got that. If not, amend it, okay, improve on it, so this can be your reference, your own scaffold for when you give this a try. So, task 3C, that scaffold that you have just created yourself, colour code it. So each element that you need, colour code it and I want you to go back to the example paragraph in task 3A. Go through and highlight where you see evidence of each element, each section in the paragraph. Okay, so quite similar to what I did to the very first paragraph. Okay, so where can you see evidence of this, and we'll come back and do some assessment of it after. So hopefully you have gone through that paragraph on social policy from task 3A and give it a little bit of a highlight, and it may look something similar to this. So very similar to that first paragraph, in our opening sentence we've got the outline of a factor, and we've got some evaluation following that factor saying that it's important but it's not the primary reason. Okay, we then go into the detail. So we've got the date of the beverage report, we've got the name, who wrote it, what comes out of the beverage report with the 5 giants and explaining what they are, and then we've got that link back to the question. The fact that Atlee supports the report helps him win victory and succeed in this election. Therefore, the strength of his campaign is the most significant factor. So what it's saying here, it's a little bit complex. It's saying that, well, yes, the social policies are important in helping him succeed, but it's the fact that Atlee implements this into his campaign that is the most significant factor. So it's linking back to that first factor. Okay, so further evaluation. Moving on, we've then got the development of some detail around some of the 5 giants. So we've got education being one for ignorance. The 1944 education report was proposed to raise the school leaving age to 15, some specific detail. And again, this was met with positivity from the Labour Party, which is our link contributing to their success. Then we are going to focus on a little bit of balance and go into what Churchill and the Conservatives are doing with social reform. It talks about how they are concerned with the report, how is it going to be funded, talking about the proposal of the NHS, promoting free healthcare, but seeing how the lack of backing for these social policies led to a negative impact on their campaign, and showing Churchill to be out of touch with the people. So you've still got that link there at the end. Then moving into the last sentence, our mini judgment, it's reiterating what the factor is. It is saying that it does aid the victory in 1945, but it's not as important as the Labour campaign. So hopefully you are starting to get a sense of how this is coming together as a full answer. So linking this second paragraph, the social policies paragraph, with that first paragraph on the Labour election campaign. Okay. So task 4. This is the big one. This is where you get a chance to apply what you have learned, okay? Have a go at writing out the last paragraph on your own. You've got some space to do this in your skills booklet, all right? Use everything that we've talked through so far. So the structure scaffold, the vocabulary bank, the sentence starters, use the read and use your notes for your knowledge, use the example paragraphs as well to build a further scaffold from that, okay? Use everything to help you. Don't worry if this is not perfect. That's not what we are wanting at this stage. We are wanting to see if you can just apply this a little bit. Aim to write as much as possible, okay? You're going to do a little bit of self-assessment to try and get as many marks as you can, and the way that you can do that is by making sure that you have lots on your page, Okay, this third paragraph that you are going to focus on is conservative weaknesses. Okay, so focus on that part of your reading, and if needs be, rewind a little bit and go back to the part where I've talked through what the conservative weaknesses were for this election campaign. All right, take as much time as you need to focus on this, and once you have finished, come back to me and I will talk you through your self-assessment task. Good luck. Okay, hopefully you have pulled together that last paragraph, and just before we do some self-assessment, I have got an example of that last paragraph here for you to help you with that assessment. Okay, very similar to what I've done for the other two paragraphs, highlighted where we see the different elements of the essay. Okay, so again, first sentence, what is the factor, and following that up with some evaluation. So this is saying that it's the least important reason why Labour became why Labour came to power. Had a bit of a brain malfunction there. So, talking of the detail, we've got the return to the status quo, traditional values, Churchill being out of touch, he's old, he's 70, it's got that specificity there as well. The link back to the question, how this negatively impacts Churchill's image. Moving on to him not backing the Beveridge report again. How he made a mistake with the Gestapo speech and saying how this backfired on him. It also, in the link here, says how Churchill's attack was just seen as a failure for him and the Conservatives to launch an effective campaign against Attlee's Labour Party, and because Attlee had already pulled together a strong campaign of their own, it means that this factor is not as significant as the others. So we've got some evaluation in that link as well. Moving on and making some comparisons with the election propaganda, how Churchill, the Conservatives, didn't really spend much. The £3,000 was the budget, how they relied too much on Churchill's victory rather than looking to the future. And that weakness of the campaign just highlights their inability to form a strong argument, and again linking that back to the evaluation and the question. And then your mini judgment, why the Conservative campaign is not necessarily the most important reason in why Labour won. Okay. I've also just included a little conclusion here just so you've got an example, and then we've got a full answer together there. So it's addressing the question, making sure that it's been answered. We've got that factor that's been prioritised as the most important. It's the successful election campaign. It's then talking through and summarising the sort of ranking of the other factors, with the policies being marginally crucial, but again the campaign being more important, and the Conservatives campaign being or not having much significance on their opponent's outcome. And then again that last little sentence with that judgment, the most important reason why Labour won was their strong election campaign. Okay, so last little thing that we need to do is to do some self-assessment. Okay. Task 5. Use the criteria that's been given to you in your skills booklet, so you should have something that looks like this on your page. Again, colour code the following areas, so the mention of the factor, the evaluative words, specific detail, analytical links, and a mini judgment. You're going to have marks that relate to each area. So for your mention of a factor, you get 2 marks per mention. For every evaluative word that you use, you get 5 marks. For every bit of specific detail, you get 3 marks. For every link that you make, it is 4 marks, and for a mini judgment, it is 2 marks. Okay. What I want you to do first though is to read through your paragraph and, like what we have done so far, highlight where you see evidence of these areas. Okay. If you followed the structure correctly, you should have a lot of colour on your page. Okay. Then look at the marks that I've just talked through. Read through your paragraph again and mark it this time, awarding yourself marks for the areas that are outlined every time you have mentioned them in your response. Okay. Then once you've done that, give yourself a total of marks, add them all up, and write in the section in your booklet 3 what went wells and 2 even better ifs. Okay, so there we can get a good understanding of what we are good at and what we need to improve upon. Okay, so I'll give you some time to do that and then come back to me and we'll finish off. So I'm hoping you feel you got some good tips and some good understanding out of that, and you feel a little bit better prepared going into A-level and skills that are needed to be successful. If we just have a final little recap then, so we've made a bit of a head start and we are now understanding some new skills that are needed at A-level. We have understood how to write a bit more, develop your answer, so going back to the pizza analogy, making sure that we are answering the question and developing on the question a bit more. We've picked up some top tips on how to write an essay. This is what we will use and always come back to every time we do some skills, technique stuff in class, so it will be really useful for you to take forward into September. And hopefully with that last task you've identified where your strengths are, what are you good at, where can you see some really good skills coming through in your writing, but also where can we look for improvement in our writing technique. Okay, how can we improve upon that? And hopefully you've learnt some new knowledge today about the 1945 election, and you've got a bit of an understanding of that, and when we come to that lesson in the new term, you will already have a bit of a foundation for that. Okay. So I hope that you've enjoyed this and you've gotten something out of it. Thank you very much for watching and taking part in the session and completing the tasks, and we look forward to meeting you soon.